Welcome to this deep dive. Today, our mission is to unpack a highly specific and really transformative approach to music and creative entrepreneurship.
Yeah, we are pulling directly from the teachings of Terence Wilburn, specifically his Surviving the Music Business curriculum.
Right. And we're also looking at several of his actual coaching session transcripts and breaking down the mechanics of the 60-day artist launch plan.
Exactly. And the overarching premise here is that the traditional industry playbook, it's fundamentally broken for the independent artist.
Oh, totally broken.
Right. So his curriculum proposes a framework for creators to build their own infrastructure rather than just, waiting for an invitation from the gatekeepers.
Which brings us to a feeling I think so many of you listening right now will immediately recognize. You press the gas pedal of your car, the engine is roaring.
Oh, yeah, the tires are spinning.
The tires are spinning, but you look out the window and you haven't moved an inch. Mud is just flying everywhere.
You're making a massive amount of noise.
Yes, you're making noise. You're burning through all this fuel, but you're literally just sinking deeper into the dirt. It is exhausting.
It's totally exhausting. And looking at Wilburn's coaching transcripts, that's the exact state of paralysis he observes in incredibly talented people who are just trying to get their work out into the world.
So to understand how his curriculum attempts to pull creators out of that mud, we have to look at exactly who he designed this material for.
Right, because he doesn't use a generic target audience. He builds a highly specific client avatar in his sources, and he calls her Faith the Visionary.
Faith the Visionary. Okay, let's unpack this.
So defining faith is really the linchpin of his entire philosophy because it exposes the massive gap between what struggling artists think their problem is.
And what's actually holding them back.
Exactly. So according to the profile in the curriculum, Faith is a Black woman, generally between 28 and 42 years old.
Okay, so she's got some life experience.
Right. And she lives outside of the major music industry hubs. She's not in LA or New York.
She's in a secondary market somewhere.
Yeah. And she works a standard day job, maybe retail or admin, or she's a cashier. And she's making under $2,000 a month.
Wow, okay. So money is definitely tight.
Very tight. But the defining characteristic of Faith is her psychographic profile. She possesses this deep, deep creative gift.
Right.
And crucially, she is deeply faith-based. Wilburn notes that she sees her artistry as a profound spiritual calling.
It's not just a side hustle for her.
No, not at all. She's not doing this to make a quick buck. She prays over her work. She wants to turn her creativity into both impact and income.
But the disconnect happens when you ask her why she isn't succeeding, right? Like if you look at the coaching transcripts, artists fitting this exact profile almost universally claim their problem is a lack of exposure.
Yes. They think, oh, I just need more followers.
Right, or like, I need better marketing hacks.
Or some mythical industry cosign to validate their talent.
And treating those surface problems is, it's like taking a painkiller for a broken arm.
Oh, that's a perfect way to put it.
Right, like endlessly tweaking a logo design or trying to hack the TikTok algorithm. It completely masks the symptom while ignoring the root fracture.
And Wilburn argues that the root fracture is a complete lack of structural foundation, combined with a really severe identity crisis.
An identity crisis. Say more about that.
Well, she's so used to being, Faith the cashier or Faith the dependable friend, that her internal confidence hasn't caught up with the identity of Faith the visionary.
Wow. So she's almost playing a character in her own life.
Exactly. Her real hurdle is fear masquerading as perfectionism.
Fear masquerading as perfectionism. That is huge. Because she lacks a predictable system for her daily creative life, she falls into this psychological trap that the curriculum calls the cycle of stuck.
The cycle of stuck, yes. And instead of just listing this out as an abstract concept, the transcripts illustrate this cycle through the lived reality of these artists.
So, okay, let's walk through this. Imagine a typical Saturday for Faith. She wakes up, she listens to a powerful message, maybe a podcast or a really moving sermon.
Right, she gets deeply inspired.
The dopamine hits, she feels that spark and declares, this is it. I am taking my calling seriously today.
We've all been there.
Oh, completely. So she opens up her laptop, she fires up Canva, and she starts outlining this massive project.
But because there is no underlying structure, she's just stacking ideas into a void.
Right, there's no foundation.
And so within an hour, that inspiration just fades into overthinking.
The dreaded overthinking phase.
Yeah, she starts comparing her rough day one draft to the polished, 5 years in final product of her absolute favorite artist.
Oh, that's the killer right there.
It really is. The self-doubt creeps in, the Canva window stays open, but the actual creation just stops.
She pauses the project and she probably tells herself, I just need to do a bit more research.
Research in air quotes, yeah.
Exactly. And that quote unquote research inevitably turns into 3 hours of mindlessly scrolling TikTok or Instagram.
Oh, for sure.
But here is where it gets really interesting and where I actually want to push back on the sources a little bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
So the sources note that at this point of inaction, creators often use their spirituality as an excuse. They claim they are quote unquote waiting on a sign from God,
Right.
or they're waiting for perfect spiritual discernment before releasing their work. But, I mean, if faith is the core of this avatar's identity, isn't waiting for discernment a legitimate spiritual practice?
That's a really fair question.
Like, how does Wilburn differentiate between genuine spiritual patience and just plain old fear?
Well, the curriculum addresses that exact friction with a very specific phrase. He says, fear is disguised as obedience.
Fear is disguised as obedience. Wow.
Yeah, it's heavy. Wilburn argues that true spiritual discernment usually precedes the vision. The fact that the artist already has the drive, they have the raw talent, and they have the idea, that is the sign.
Oh, so the vision itself is the green light.
Exactly. Spending months journaling and praying for confirmation, post a video or release a song. He says that isn't patience. It's a shield against vulnerability.
Because it is so much safer to say, well, it's not God's timing yet, than to admit, I am terrified people will think this song is mediocre.
Exactly. It frames the inaction not as a spiritual virtue, but as a hiding place.
And naturally, that hiding leads to the next phase of the cycle, which is frustration and heavy guilt.
Oh, yeah. The guilt is crushing. Monday rolls around. Faith is back at her day job. She's scanning her phone on her lunch break, and she watches other creators pass her by online.
And she just beats herself up for wasting another weekend.
Right. And the cycle only resets when she hears another motivational message, maybe a few weeks later. She gets re-inspired, and she starts the agonizing loop all over again.
And I imagine traditional marketing advice is completely useless here.
Totally useless. Telling someone in this loop to, just post 3 times a day, it just adds to the overwhelm.
So how do we break it? How does the curriculum pull her out of this?
This is where Wilburn introduces the 60-day artist launch plan. This is really the mechanical engine of his entire curriculum.
Okay, so the strategy here is to systematically replace every negative emotion in that cycle with a rigid, constructive counteraction.
Exactly. So step 1 inspiration is the first thing to go.
Wait, get rid of inspiration.
Well, Wilburn's plan replaces the reliance on fleeting inspiration with concrete structure.
Oh, okay.
He provides a mapped-out daily timeline. The artist is no longer waking up on a Saturday and just wondering what to do. They are executing a predetermined task list.
Which makes so much sense. Because relying on inspiration to build a career, it's like trying to power a car with lightning strikes.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Right. I mean, when the lightning hits, it's massively powerful, but it is completely unpredictable. You cannot build a sustainable daily commute relying on a random thunderstorm.
You really can't.
The 60-day plan acts as the engine. It runs on the steady fuel of daily habits.
And as that engine runs, it tackles the overthinking phase by forcing confidence through immediate action.
They doing rather than just planning.
Exactly. Wilburn's philosophy is that you don't think your way into confidence, you act your way into it. By focusing on small, daily micro-wins, the progress itself generates clarity.
Okay, but I have to ask, doesn't Wilburn's heavy push for this quote-unquote imperfect action risk damaging an artist's brand?
How so?
Well, if someone is trying to build a premium visionary identity, doesn't releasing unpolished, imperfect work just signal to the audience that they're an amateur?
It's a common fear, but the coaching transcripts address this tension head-on. Wilburn redefines what the modern audience actually values.
Okay.
He coaches his artists that in today's digital landscape, audiences bond with authenticity. They bond with the journey, not just the glossy final product.
So it's about the connection, not the polish.
Right. Imperfect action isn't about releasing terrible music. It's about, say, sharing a raw vocal take sitting in your kitchen instead of waiting 6 months to afford a $10,000 music video.
Which you might never actually shoot.
Exactly. The perfectionism is what is actually amateur, because true professionals understand the need for iterative growth.
That makes total sense. It transitions the artist from a purely creative, head-in-the-clouds mindset into what Wilburn calls the undercover music CEO.
The undercover music CEO taking on that mantle is the ultimate goal of the 60-day plan.
And it's a massive shift.
It really is. Wilburn treats music as a ministry, but he demands that his students apply the structural ruthlessness of a corporate executive.
Because the modern creative industry is not a meritocracy. The gatekeepers profit heavily off the uninformed.
Exactly. To survive, the artist must stop thinking like an employee, hoping a label will hire them. They have to start thinking like a business owner who owns their own distribution.
Let's actually look at how this CEO framework performs in the wild, because the sources provide a really detailed case study of a woman named Lady Sophia.
Yes, Lady Sophia, her journey is the clearest illustration of Wilburn's curriculum moving from theory to practice.
So where did she start?
When she entered the program, Sophia was the textbook definition of faith the visionary.
Down to the letter.
Literally, she was bringing in maybe $800 to $1,000 a month.
Okay?
She had zero online content, no music officially uploaded, and she was tightly gripping all those old industry myths.
He was waiting to be discovered.
Yes. Hoping a record label would just sweep in, fund her entire life, and validate her talent.
She was entirely stuck in the mud, tire spinning.
Exactly. But the curriculum breaks down how she applied the 60-day plan to build her own infrastructure, and it started with bypassing traditional visibility.
Right, because instead of trying to pitch her music to mainstream radio or major playlist curators who, let's be honest, demand massive budgets or inside connections, she turned herself into her own media outlet.
That's the key. Wilburn advised her to leverage digital tools, specifically TikTok, but not in the way most musicians do it.
She didn't just post links saying, stream my new song.
No, she used weekly storytelling. She posted behind-the-scenes clips of her life, raw vocal performances, and she talked openly about her faith and the actual struggles of her journey.
And algorithms reward retention. Her raw storytelling kept people watching far longer than some sterile promotional graphic ever would have.
Right. She built a genuine parasocial relationship with her viewers.
And that connection allowed her to execute the most vital pivot in Welburn's strategy, which is monetize before you strategize.
Yes, most independent artists operate under this massive delusion that they need millions of streams before they can make a living.
Which is crazy when you look at the math.
It is. Streaming platforms pay fractions of a penny. So Sophia flipped that entirely. Knowing the math, she bypassed streaming as her primary income source.
What did she do instead?
She set up a simple Buy Me a Coffee page, just inviting her early, very small audience to directly fund her journey.
But she didn't just passively ask for donations, right? This is where the mechanics of her strategy get really brilliant.
Oh, it's so smart.
The sources highlight that Sophia had two distinct passions, gospel rap and cooking.
Right. And most marketing advice would tell you, pick a lane, stick to it so you don't confuse the algorithm.
Right, niche down.
But Wilburn's coaching encouraged her to merge them, so she created an exclusive live-streamed event series called Faith and Flavor Dinners.
Faith and flavor, I love that.
Yeah, she would literally set up her camera in her kitchen, prepare a meal, talk with her audience, and drop these inspiring vocal performances right there at the stove.
Wow, so it was an intimate, highly unique experience.
Very intimate, and she could monetize it directly. She didn't need a million casual listeners. She just needed a small, dedicated community willing to pay for direct access to her specific brand of artistry.
She leveraged the free tools right in front of her, a smartphone, a kitchen, and her raw talent. And she generated immediate revenue.
Yes, she did.
And by building this economic engine herself, she successfully avoided what Wilburn refers to in the curriculum as the okey doke.
The okey doke. This is Wilburn's term for the industry's ultimate deception.
Right. I mean, if you're listening to this, you probably already know the inherent trap of a standard record label advance.
But Wilburn's coaching transcripts highlight how the modern iteration of this trap is so much more insidious.
Yeah, let's break that down, because an advance is essentially just a loan that you have to pay back out of your royalties.
Exactly. It's not free money. But Wilburn points out that the modern 360 deal weaponizes this even further.
Oh, 360 deals are brutal.
They really are. Labels aren't just recouping against your album sales anymore. They are taking percentages of your touring revenue, your merchandise, your brand sponsorship.
They're taking a piece of everything just to pay back that initial loan.
Right. So the okey doke is convincing an artist that signing away their long-term ownership and all their multi-stream revenue is somehow a fair trade for short-term validation.
And a little bit of marketing budget up front.
Exactly. But by maintaining her independence and retaining 100% of her master recordings, Sophia ensured that the momentum she built through those faith and flavor streams benefited her own bank account.
Not a label's recoupment ledger.
Exactly. She fully inhabited the role of the undercover music CEO.
She didn't just provide the raw creative material for a corporation to refine and sell. She owned the factory. She managed the distribution. And she cultivated the customer relationship entirely by herself.
And when we zoom out and look at the entirety of Wilburn's curriculum, the real through line here is radical self-reliance.
Radical self-reliance.
Yeah, the transition from faith to visionary to a successful CEO requires confronting the painful realities of that cycle of stuck.
It demands replacing the comforting illusion of quote-unquote waiting for a sign with the friction of daily structured habits.
Because your time is your most expensive leak.
Yes, if you are listening to this right now, whether you are making music, writing, or building any kind of business, your time is your most expensive leak.
Spending another weekend endlessly tweaking a Canva graphic or just passively consuming free webinars without ever executing, it's actively harming your calling.
The curriculum forces the question. Are you going to continue waiting for someone to offer to a seat at their table, or are you going to start building your own?
Which brings us to a broader implication of this material, something to really mull over that wasn't explicitly detailed in Wilburn's curriculum, but it is so deeply tied to everything we've talked about.
Let's hear it.
If the goal is to bypass the traditional gatekeepers, we have to talk about the spiritual weight of resistance.
Okay.
We mentioned earlier that people often pause their dreams because they are waiting on a sign from God.
Right. Fear disguised as obedience.
Exactly. But consider this. If the pressing, burning desire in your heart to create was actually placed there as the sign itself,
Oh, wow.
then is your continued waiting actually an act of defiance rather than obedience?
That is heavy. If the desire is the sign, then sitting in inaction is literally resisting the call.
Exactly. You aren't waiting on the universe. The universe is waiting on you to just hit publish.
A profound thought to leave on. For anyone listening who has felt that engine roaring while stuck in the mud, take a hard look at where you are spending your energy.
Recognize the okey doke. Implement the structure of a CEO.
And focus on building your community today. Start small, but start now. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the mechanics of creative independence. Keep building and keep moving forward.